Hey, you there. Thank you for watching and welcome to Forged Lines Forever. Today I have a very special cast here. It is the first 1v1 game here on the channel, and it will be between SilentNoob here in blue and Alt F4 here in red. SilentNoob is going first land as a UEF, and Alt F4 is going first land as well, second and third air as an Aeon. And again, let's look at reclaim here before our players start. It's hoovering up all of that mass. 62,950 reclaim between two players. About 30,000 each if they, split it in half. That is a lot of reclaim for both of our players. And again, we are playing on VYA-3 Protectorate. So let's go ahead and kind of look at the map here. We have a few different areas for our players that will probably be beds of contention. Groups of 4 mass extractor points here, all dotted around the map. We even have some on these outer rings. We have walls and cliffs here that kind of will be impassable for land units. So we'll be seeing choke points probably here, 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 and here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of the action in those 4 places. Of course, in the middle as well, there's 8 mechs here, a couple of T1 PDs. So early on, our players will not be able to grab it. And there is a T3 mass fabricator wreck here in the middle as well. On last video and a couple of videos before, I've had a few people mention that they would like to see a 1v1. And I thought, well, after my 500 plus subscriber celebration video, I think it's time I start getting to like 1v1s, 2v2s, that sort of thing. So this is the first one of its kind on the channel. We have a couple of Mech Marine scouts here, getting a nice little view here for SilentNoob, trying to see where his opponent is going in terms of engineer placements. Of course, we have Alt F4 focusing more on getting the engineers out, getting some of that reclaim, and then he's going to establish another forward base here, far forward, as well as a radar installation, at least one right here. Very good spot here in the middle of his little quadrant of the map to get a nice little view of the battlefield. To the southwest, we have, again, very similar tactics here for SilentNoob. And again, he's going to build a production facility up here. And wouldn't be surprised yet he's going to build one here. So focusing a lot on production and a lot on land. He is building a air facility as well. In 1v1s and in 2v2s, you really need to focus on both air and land. It cannot be a, win the game with only land or win the game with only air. It doesn't really work that way. We do have a couple of engineers that are by themselves here. And these Mech Marines will be able to get a lot of damage. The engineers are retreating, but we do have an Aurora and a Spirit on station. So they will be able to take care of that fairly quickly. Another Mech Marine kind of just walking around, seeing what's what. And the first kill does go to SilentNoob. It is an engineer. Usually engineers are the first ones to die. It's just kind of how it is. And let's go see what's going on here to the west. More scouts here. Very similar patterns for both players. SilentNoob is a 1790 and a Alt F4 is a 1714. So, I mean, there is a difference in rating by almost 100 points. But in 1v1s, it's kind of hard to get an exact close rating. So 76 points isn't that crazy, especially when you get higher ranking. Alt F4 is currently winning the match generation game here. It does look like SilentNoob is starting to catch up with more and more mechs coming online as time goes on. One air scout going to get a nice little view of his opponent, seeing where he is expanding. He also has a couple of NTs. Actually, he has one NT and one Shimmer, one T1 bomber, and he's going for the engineer here. Going to take out these engineer to deny this position. Going to build a radar installation and a PD to help assist in defense. But that is not going to last very long. The engineer does notice the bomber, tries to move out of the way, and still gets killed. So that will delay SilentNoob's expansion here to the north. We do, of course, have these AA emplacements and PD for our players to try to avoid. Again, AA for T1, not super effective. But again, T1 against T1 air, it's going to kill something off. The bomber going to get its second kill here on this engineer. It's not moving, and that will be a confirmed kill. Probably will keep going eastward, denying his opponent the ability to build mechs to reinforce this position faster. We are seeing more units, of course, starting to group up here on both sides of the map here for SilentNoob, as well here for Alt F4. Alt F4 does have a facility online to the north, a little bit farther forward. Going to probably build some more engineers for reclaim, but we have counter bombing going here for SilentNoob, doing very similar work that Alt F4 just did. Unfortunately, there is an interceptor, and it will take that bomber out fairly quickly. Units here to the east trying to deny this engineer and other tanks from reinforcing this position. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the game, this is going to be a hotbed of contention. These are fairly important choke points. Lots of avenues of attack if they are opened up for their opponent to use. And the map is going to start to be split down the middle on this diagonal from the northwest corner to the southeast corner. We have SilentNoob already moving forward. He's trying to build a bunch of land units on the ground. And this is one of those types of games where building T1 land is very important. Because if you don't have enough units to hold out on your opponent before you can build T2, they'll overrun you, and it will not be a good day. It will not be enjoyable. But it does look like SilentNoob is getting those engineers back up online, and then we'll eventually... He should probably build the land factory first to give some increased production like his opponent is doing. Alt F4 being able to pump out more engineers from these nearby facilities, as well as, of course, tanks when he needs them. T1 units will not be able to destroy these T1 factories fairly quickly unless the opponent's spamming out T1 already. But it's more important you get the mass and you get the facilities online, and then from there you can start talking about PD, shields. The intel is important, so I'd probably go mass and mass/land facility, and then intel, and then PD, because you got to know what's going on. Intel, very, very important, especially in 1v1s. Cannot stress it enough how important it is, and that's why we have Alt F4, constantly flying around air scouts just to see what's going on. He doesn't even have obviously he doesn't have OmniNet, doesn't have T2 yet, has T2, radar installation. This is a 10x10, so for a 10x10 for a 1v1 player, a lot of room for our players to just spread out, build lots of bases, lots of facilities. We are having a attempted run by from a couple of these Aurora to the east. There are only engineers nearby and one striker, so not a whole lot. Engineers do spread out. Going to build a couple of mass extractors, PD, and build more mass extractors. Unfortunately, it's not going to be quick enough, at least on that PD, and these engineers will die. And the interceptors actually being shot out, not even out of the sky, from the ground by these Aurora. This striker that was here at some point, it went over here. These strikers should be pulled back to take out the Aurora, but the facility is going to be started to be online. The Aurora focusing the interceptors, not a bad play, but it has allowed the engineers to build up at least a decent progression on that facility. So definitely something to worry about here for SilentNoob on the eastern side. Gunships already appearing here for Alt F4. Alt F4 focusing a little bit more on air, while it does look like SilentNoob is focusing a little bit more on the ground game here. Lots of facilities already online. Has an additional T1. Actually, just finished a T2 air. So he will be able to start bringing out some Janus, going to bring out some gunships, that sort of thing. And like I said, T1 tanks, T1 already very important early on, especially later game as well. You got to have those cannon fodder units. There are gunships on approach near these interceptors. There are assisting interceptors here for Alt F4. Alt F4 does have the numbers, especially with the loss of those interceptors here from the east earlier on due to those Aurora. But now SilentNoob kind of under threat here all by himself. Doesn't really have anything going for him. These gunships are going to go after the engineers, and once they go after that, they can go after the T1AA. And then after that, they can go after the comm. But the comm is going to build T1AA as well. He has multiple radar installations. One here, one here, one here. Wouldn't be surprised he builds one here. And probably one here in the middle. We already see T1 tanks going to take out the PD, because this is a lot of mass for him to scoop up. And so he's going to want to claim this quicker than his opponent. His opponent of Alt F4 focusing more on raiding, which isn't a bad idea, essentially. He is starting to lose mass, though, in terms of the mass lead. Alt F4 now at 34 versus SilentNoob's 42, and that is the downside. Yeah, he's taking out T1 mass extractors, but then, you know, they're very cheap. You can just rebuild them very quickly. A lot of APM is being focused on raiding, which, again, isn't a bad thing if you can then take the land. And now that we see to the east a huge focus from Alt F4 to take this eastern side of the map, the western side will start to falter due to his, you know, focus on this eastern side. That's kind of how a lot of a lot of FAF games go, is that one side usually is the priority, the other one is not. The one that is not usually falls, and the one that's the priority obviously does not. But now we have gunship raiding going here to the west as well. SilentNoob needs an answer to this, and he's lost a lot of mass. It did take a second for the mass totals to... Is he having power issues? Oh, that's why. He's having power issues. I was like, why did his mass drop so severely? If you don't already know, if you don't have enough power to run your mass extractors, it reduces the efficiency of said mass extractors. So you actually get less mass. So power is very important. It's very easy to produce, but it is very important. T1 Interceptor is still a threat to these T2 gunships. It isn't until you get into the restore levels of gunships that interceptors don't really do the job. But now there's a transport under threat by a bunch of interceptors. Will it get away? There's a lot of units here for Alt F4, and he's not... Oh, is he going to... Oh. Gotta land it. You gotta land it. You gotta land it. Interceptors are on approach, and they turn away. This group of engineers will live to fight another day, but there are a lot of Aurora here, and they're actually going to fall back probably to this position and take out those engineers before they have a chance to build anything up. Looks like the first upgrade of the game, T2 going on the comm here for SilentNoob. Nice little view of the comm next to his little facility here. Has an intel installation here. Mechs, guns, that sort of thing. Lots of PD. And of course, the more you focus on one aspect of the game, whether that be air, ground, navy, your opponent will be like, oh, he's focusing on air. I should build some AA. And then that pretty much cancels your advantage. And so you have to always be thinking, what do I want to do? How is my opponent going to counter it? And then how do I counter that counter? It's kind of that. You got to think at least 2, maybe 3 steps ahead. And that's how like chess works. That's how a lot of these strategy games work, is pretty much how can you outsmart the opponent, or how can you force your opponent into a box and then keep him in that box so you control what he can and cannot do. That's also another strategy here. We do see a lot of effort being put to T3 air here for Alt F4. He knows and he wants to get air. Air is very important in this game. It can lock out a lot of things for your opponent if you can secure it early and quickly. But we are seeing Obsidian tanks on the field. Does Alt F4 have power? He doesn't have power either, so both of our players, or at least I guess SilentNoob has fixed his power problems. But both of our players are experiencing power problems at one time or another. More raiding going down here on the northwest corner here for Alt F4, but it's not getting as much work done as it used to. And large groups of T1 units are grouping up. We are seeing a couple of T2 mobile missile launchers. Of course, the Obsidians, Blazes. Obsidians are one of the best T2 units in the game by far. I think if you got the Obsidian as the main tank, the Ilshi as the attack bot, and then what's another one? Pillars and Rhinos are pretty much the same thing, essentially. What's another? Obviously, you got a shield of some kind, and every faction has a shield. So, what, does Cyberns have shields? That's a good question. I can't think of if Cyberns have T2 shield, mobile shield generators. I will have to look that up at some point. I don't know off the top of my head. We don't have a Cybern in this game. But, yeah, it's just, if you combine the Ilshi power and the Obsidian tankiness, it is a very deadly combination. UEF are known for their tankiness, and so Alt F4 has to be thinking about, okay, he's going to be building PD at some point. I don't want him to build that PD to block me out of certain spots on the map. How do I deny that? Well, the way you deny it is by rushing, which is what he's doing. He's raiding. He's trying to go after his opponent, trying to tax his APM. But now we see units moving into the northwest are going to leave an opening here for these units to come around. And now the unit's going to go, oh no, are we going to commit to this? Or are we going to retreat? And even SilentNoob doesn't want to commit all of his forces to this push. He wants to keep some in reserve. Definitely an interesting move. Doesn't want to lose everything. We have a group of units down here to the southeast, very far forward, right next to the comm of SilentNoob. He's on an upgrade, but these units will not kill him. A lot of Aurora and a couple of intel bots, these land scouts, these spirits. But to the east, another drop. Looks like SilentNoob going for the corners of the map specifically on these little tiny hill sections. But couple of facilities. Intel, love the intel. And we can just zoom out and see all that he can see with these T1 intel. So about half of the map almost is covered by his intel installations. He lost one up here, of course. But more units funneling in for SilentNoob. They're not going to crack the amount of hit points on these Obsidian. Of course, they're focusing the Aurora first, the things they can target, versus just, you know, running a bunch of units in and not getting anything for it. But I was going to say Team 1, but Alt F4 is going to be claiming this northwestern side of the map here pretty soon. But SilentNoob has claimed the middle. He just needs to get units in. And there's one civilian T1 point defense still online. So both of our players have to be aware of that. But again, a lot of those buildings are going to be scooped up fairly quickly. You can see each of those buildings are worth essentially 89 mass. Wait, well, I guess they're different values depending on the size. So a decent chunk of mass in the middle. That's going to be very useful for upgrading mexes and, of course, building power generators and the sort. Alt F4 is now winning the mass generation game once again at 95 mass a second versus SilentNoob 77. Do either of them have power issues? No. Does look like Alt F4 has built a T3 power generator, and that will most indefinitely help him with that power issue for the foreseeable future. He's actually starting to reclaim his old P-gens and start to probably build some adjacency bonuses with the larger ones. Does SilentNoob have T3? No, he does not. He's going for it now, building a shield generator to protect. Looks like he reclaimed one of his old facilities. But it's not. He is behind in the air game, and he has to be aware of that. Interceptors are becoming less and less effective just due to the sheer power of the ASF. One ASF can be taken out by a horde of interceptors. They're not all powerful, but you can just see pretty much one-shotting those interceptors. Team 1, I keep singing Team 1 because it's red team. Team 2 is blue team. It's just a habit. Where 1v1, it's just the name of the player. SilentNoob versus Alt F4. Of course, if you've been enjoying the cast so far, please like and comment down below. I know it's a little bit of a slower game. It is, of course, a 1v1, so not a lot of like high, risk, high reward kind of gameplay, but it's more methodical. It's more focusing on tactics, focusing on strategy, focusing on what each individual player is doing and why they're doing it. So hopefully everyone is enjoying the video, and please, if you are, I would like to hear about it down in the comments. And if you don't want to text, you can obviously just hit that thumbs up. And if you don't want to do that, that's also fine. Watching the video is satisfaction for me alone. But we are having SilentNoob push forward with the Zeph Amp and the T2 engineering suite, giving him some more hit points. Going to start scooping up some mass. He needs mass desperately. Does look like Alt F4 starting to scoop or keep more mass in his bar versus SilentNoob, who is just running out of mass constantly. He's just constantly running out of mass. He needs to get his power situation figured out. His numbers are jumping all over the place. Once he builds his T3 facility, he will be fine for now. But he has a bunch of pillars here. And against Obsidians, Obsidians have the tankiness, but the pillars have the damage. It's kind of a nice little middle ground. You can see Obsidian tanks 12.5k or 1250. I was at 12.5k, but with an additional 1500 hit points. So essentially 2750 hit points versus the 1500 hit points of the pillars. But of course, the Obsidians do less damage. So again, it's a trade-off of survivability versus damage. Pretty much the trade-off with the Obsidians. But another push here to the west for this closer facility here for SilentNoob. And there's only one T1 point defense, excuse me. couple of mexes are going to T2. All of them actually finished the T2. This will be a huge grab here for Alt F4, denying his opponent generated mass. And these pillars were out of position. And there is another assisting PD up here, but it's not going to do a whole lot. The pillars will roll in and start dealing with those hit points on those obsidians. Lots and lots of firepower going down. Focusing fire on a single target, maximizing that damage against those units, as well as a decent amount of Lobos here, trying to take out the shields at least on those tanks. There's a blaze in here. That is the main damage here for Alt F4, and those pillars were not enough. Interceptors just landing nearby. More pillars, more units coming in all the time. Lobos landing shots. These units aren't moving. They're not being microed as much, which means the arty will hit them a lot easier. Another tank goes down. You can see all the damage going down on all those units. Another obsidian will die here fairly quickly. More pillars being pushed. The blaze, coincidentally, was killed. Doesn't mean that the obsidians can't do damage, but it is a decent amount less than what they could have been doing had the blaze been there. But the comm of SilentNoob, very far forward, 21 minutes. He knows his opponent has T3 air. There's already a restorer kind of flying around. Air steps building up in the middle. Wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a strat bomb built at some point. But we will see more units just bleeding into SilentNoob's base, taking out Mexes, taking out. This would be a good grab. Had these obsidians and spirits, these Aurora been closer, the radar installation. A lot of people know on the channel that I'm a big proponent of blind your opponent, so take out the radar. You take out the radar, they can't see anything. If they can't see anything, they can't see you coming. If they can't see you coming, you can surprise them. If you can surprise them, you can kill them. Most of the time. It's kind of the like A to Z kind of like, you know, this to this to this. But we are seeing T3 land now here for SilentNoob. We are seeing T3 land, of course, here for Alt F4 as well. But it does look like the Titans are starting to make their presence known here, going northward. Probably going to take out this position, want to reclaim it. That was once his. This facility producing Harbingers. Of course, Harbingers are very good bots. They have the shield, a lot of temporary hit points. Restore is brought forward, dealing with these pillars. Some of the shots are missing due to the environment, but their restorers will kind of just mosey on over a little bit, kind of just change their positioning and be able to take out those pillars. Pillars will die for nothing, unfortunately. Engineers fighting over mass points, essentially. You can see them try to go after a building, notice the building isn't there, and then go after something else. Let's see which thing will finish first. This will, the Alt F4 mechs will finish just due to the reclaim that was already there. And now we have enemy engineers bumping into one another. All of them will be killed off. Pillars attacking that mechs and then going after the obsidians afterwards. Restorers being a nuisance here for SilentNoob on the eastern side. SilentNoob has decided to stake his claim on this eastern side, and the comm of Alt F4 hasn't even left his base. Underneath shield coverage, building his air grid. Just kind of playing it slow, going for air grid, going for that initial, I'm going to raid, and then hold back and build up, and then I'll raid again, and then I'll hold back and build up again, then I'll raid again. But the nice use of these Titans taking out the obsidian tanks, they don't do as much damage, just, you know, the fact that it's rapid fire, but they can take out tanks with enough time. And like I say, 1,000 skins can take out anything. And in this case, if you have an infinite amount of time, eventually you will kill something. It just will take an infinite amount of time. But the Harbingers are starting to push these T1 units back, and T2 as well. There's some pillars. This would be a good grab if they could grab this, kill this Harbinger off. It only has 265 hit points. I think 1 or 2 Lobo shows would kill it, but the shield will pop back online, and now it'll be another 1,000 hit points to chew through. Definitely a disappointment there here for SilentNoob. And he's probably not paying attention to the exact numbers of everything. But taking out a T3 assault bot, you know, pretty early on, kind of in your territory, a decent amount of mass to scoop up. But now we're seeing missile launchers from this position taking out some vital mexes. There isn't any Team D. They take out the radar. Thank goodness that was there for a while, blinding your opponent. And now another missile comes in, but the buzzkill will kill that off. This position is secure. There's even a shield generator here for SilentNoob. The units here for Alt F4 getting dangerously close. This corner position is still alive, surprisingly. But now we're having a massive engagement here to the west. SilentNoob not having the AA units that he needs. Where are your Cougars? Where are your, not Flapjacks, your Skyboxers, that's what they're called. But now we're having a pincer maneuver here from these Restorers and these Harbingers. You have AA and, you know, air to ground weaponry versus just ground weaponry. But the extra shields, the shields from the Obsidians, the Lobos can't penetrate the shields and do enough damage. The units move too quickly, if they're microed, of course. And it's not enough. SilentNoob looks like he's on the back foot now. He's slowly losing more and more territory. Alt F4 is being attacked by a couple of broadswords. They take out the shield here. They're going after the air grid. Where's the air support here for Alt F4? This is a huge disaster. Loses all of his PGens and now going after the last air facilities. He loses air here. It won't cement his loss, but it will definitely take a while to gain what he had. You can see what has happened. Losing thousands of mass. Doesn't have enough. Thousands of energy. Doesn't have enough energy to keep his factories online, and so he has to slowly lose them. And he's losing T2 Mechs as well. Will bring his ASFs in, take those out. That was a way delayed response. Lol, says Alt F4. Just a couple of gunships set back your opponent fairly far. I'd say 5-6 minutes. A pause does occur by, I think, SilentNoob. Something about there any conversation about that? I don't know what that was about. Well, we had to let the dog in or something. But Harbingers on this western side. Again, the western side is where now Alt F4 is switching his position. This was his main focus. He saw that SilentNoob was like, okay, I'm going to defend this position with my comm, and then goes, okay, well, I'll attack the other side of the map, because why not? And you're not over there. And we are seeing AA units, couple of Cougars. We are seeing a Spearhead. There are Harbingers here, though. The Harbingers deal lots of damage. The AA has to retreat. The Harbingers are going after the T2 units here. There's only Pillars versus the Harbingers. They're taking out the PD. Good grab there. The Pillars aren't really worth it. You want to take out those emplacements as a Triad as well. That one will die, but there is the comm, of course. This is the main threat. And, of course, in a 1v1, if you kill the comm, you win. So that could be the goal here for Alt F4. He's not committing as much as he should. The comm does have overcharge. The shields are having the issue because Alt F4 doesn't have power. And so he can't run his shields. We did see a Percy shot, a couple of them coming in. More and more Harbingers on approach. We are seeing gunships. This might be a move to just kill off the comm outright. SilentNoob has to somewhat retreat. The Restorers are just knocking him down hit points. But now the Cougars are coming in with some AA support from these Skyboxers. The shield pops back online. That was a mistake. Should have taken out the shield emitter. Won't make that mistake twice. The land pressure is gone. And now the air pressure will have to retreat because there's nothing to distract those ground units anymore. So kind of a missed opportunity. Had Alt F4 grouped up his Harbingers and then sent them in, he might have killed the comm, or would have done a lot better job of doing so. Shield is still online. He's going to build PD. He's going to build AA. This position is going to be harder to take out here for Alt F4. He has to come up with a different strategy. Does escape with a couple of Restorers, but this is all of his ASF essentially, in which will give SilentNoob enough time to build up his own Air Force to rival him. That was pretty much not Alt F4. SilentNoob's goal was to destroy the enemy AA. And like, look, he has to go back to T1 PGens just because he doesn't have enough mass to build those T2 or even T3. He's trying to get his power situated. He's still negative on power. It's just hurting because, like I was mentioning earlier, yeah, power is very very easy to make and but if you put everything into T3 and you lose it all, you lost all your power. So not really the there here. And each T1 PGen provides 20 power, so it's going to take a decent chunk of them to really bring him back in this game, and he is going to be diminished in effectiveness for a decent amount of time, giving SilentNoob enough time to reinforce, to be able to say, no, you're not taking this position. I have more resources than you do now. I mean, in terms of mass generation, Alt F4 is still winning at 122 mass. Just goes to show, even though you don't have enough power to run everything at max, just having a lot of T2 whether they're ringed or not, can provide a lot of mass. Yep, still bringing in, 116. So it just goes to show you, like, you can't fully diminish somebody's ability to produce mass. But now we have T1 bombers. This position, the shield is gone. They're targeting the Oblivion turret, and then they're going to probably bring in units to deal with the rest of this. We have a couple of Percivals hanging right here, just waiting. Missiles being launched against, I think, this T2 Mechs. It isn't protected by any TMD, so this one will fall. But it's next to the comm. There's units nearby. It's not really a huge issue. It can easily be rebuilt. Percy's just go, oh, that's a missile. It's fine. It happens all the time. T2 radar has been rebuilt here for SilentNoob. And I don't see any T2 radar here for Alt F4. Kind of a mistake, at least earlier on. Now he doesn't even have the energy to run it. That's a different story, but is almost ready to build his T3, skipping. Oh, he doesn't skip. He has to build T2. How's his power situation? Well, he's still negative, but he's built up enough power to hopefully hold off this building enough to be able to say, okay, I can tank some negative power for a little bit and be able to come back in this game. And it's just a lot of aircraft need a lot of power, and that's why you see the air grids like you do, because they just require an enormous amount of power to build. And naval units. Both those just require a lot of power. And the adjacency speeds up production, so there's also that. I think it speeds up production. It reduces the cost, depending on if it's a mass producing or energy producing structure, but I think it also increases the speed. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but I think that's correct. I encourage people to correct me if I am in the wrong, because I want to provide the best and accurate information that I can for the situation. And if I'm incorrect, I need to know, because I want to know, and I want to be right, not because I want to be prideful about being right, but because I want to be right for you, so you don't take my information and be like, well, Strategic Launch said this and he was wrong. Da, 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 da. I'm like, I want to be right for you, not necessarily for me. But we are seeing Harbingers and some PD go after the Percivals. Of course, the Percivals do high alpha damage. It does look like the power generator is now online for Alt F4, and so now those Harbingers have shields. Percy's, it's kind of not a mixed bag. You got to have power to run the shields. You don't have shields, Percy's win automatically, essentially. I don't know what the ratio is to, like, how many Percys you need versus how many Harbingers you need to win a fight. But that 1,000 shield does make a difference, because it does block a decent amount of hit points loss from those Percy shots. Blocks most, not all, but most. You can see one Percival isn't enough to deal with five Harbingers. This group probably is enough with the assisting shield. Does look like it's probably 5 shots. It dropped it from the green to the yellow. So probably 4 shots kills a Harbinger. But we are seeing Oblivion turrets. It does look like Alt F4 is going to secure this position. The side he has switched to attacking more, or trying to hold more. He's like, well, I've dug my grave. This position has my T3 land facility. I need it to stay online. So he's forced to come here. And now we see the Aeon supremacy in TMD with the volcanoes. And the Percy's having a disagreement with that land, saying, hey, I can't. We need to. There we go. Need him to move forward a little bit. And just mass extractors being taken out. NG's being taken out. This position going to be wiped up. We are seeing Harbingers from both sides going to pincer maneuver. And this will be enough to deal with this if these Harbingers get here fast enough. You can see Harbingers don't do as much damage, but they fire a lot faster than the Percys. And so it's all about fire rate versus damage here in this game. Do you want to do a lot of damage, or do you want to fire a lot quicker? And fire a lot quicker is good for lower hit point units like T1 and T2. Percys are very good against experimentals because they don't have a lot of overkill, because just units have a lot of hit points. It's just how it is. The engineer is being used offensively to reclaim the units here. 2 more Percys remain. They will not kill any more units off. There's a couple of Harbingers that are on the brink of death, but they will survive. And there's already engineers building another mechs here. SilentNoob has come back in the land grab game, and now he controls over 50% of the map down that diagonal angle. Is he building? He should be building T3 Omni at some point, you would think. I mean, this is the range of a T2. It's a decent chunk of the map. It's about at least a third, because this is about the halfway point. And then, you know, kind of tick off some of the edges. And it's about a third. But I would like to see him go T3 probably here, and then probably build maybe redundancy somewhere else. You're always going to have a redundancy, but they are expensive to run, especially in a 1v1 where you have a lot going on. It's 35 minutes. Usually in, you know, FAF games with, you know, 4v4 or 5v5, usually you see experimental, at least at this stage. But on 1v1s, the pace is a lot slower, a lot more to manage. You can't say, okay, this person's focusing air, this person's focusing land or navy, whatever the case may be. So you have to specialize in everything. You know, jack of all trades, essentially, for pretty much 1v1 or 2v2s. I mean, 2v2s you can maybe get away with it a little bit, but not really. You need both players in air at least at some point, and you need both players in land, navy, whatever at some point. It can't just be you know, you do one thing, you do another thing, and we don't mix kind of thing. A lot of build power here, just kind of sitting here, running around. I think they're just on a patrol order. Yeah, they're just on a patrol order all the way around the map. Yeah, they are all the way around the map. Look at that. But Team 1 Bombers trying to focus against these Harbingers doesn't really happen here. And now engineers scooping up all of the trees and other dead units that have strewn themselves across the battlefield. In terms of mass, we have 235 here for SilentNoob, and go back. 210 here for Alt F4. So Alt F4 a little bit behind. He is behind in the total mass accrued at about 15,000. Not even enough for a Monkey Lord. And both players can't even build a Monkey Lord for that matter. So the first experimental will either be the Colossus here from Alt F4 or the Fat Boy here from the UEF player of SilentNoob. And I don't see any effort to build either. Go, says SilentNoob, probably talking about the pause. Looks like somebody paused and was talking about he had, you know, go do something. And I do appreciate there's a lot of camaraderie. Like, look, I got to pause. I got to use the bathroom. I got, you know, bring my dog in because they're barking outside, and I don't want to, you know, annoy the neighbors. I need to grab something from the door, like, you know, mailbox, you know, mail or whatever the case may be. So that most people are very reasonable about, like, hey, you know, I have this thing, it's going to take a minute or so. And that does allow the other person to, like, take a break, think about what they're doing, you know, grab a drink, you know, something like that. It allows a little bit of a break. It's kind of like in chess where you have that the little clock that you hit the button after you do a move, and it gives you a little bit of time to, like, figure things out. Unless your opponent is just on top of everything, you don't get that break. But you have the potential to have a break, but that doesn't guarantee you a break. But a lot of T2 mechs were taken out once again. Drops Alt F4's eco back down under 200. Does have a volcano being built here as well. It does look like a lot more focus for SilentNoob is being put on Percy's rather than building a mix of both. We're seeing a couple of Titans, but it does look like he's focusing more on Skyboxers for T2 air, and then a couple of parashields, and then Percy's being the main force. I would like to see more of a tank in that mix, whether that be the more Titans, pillars, just something to soak up more of the damage. The shields will do some of that, but not all of the work. Whereas we see Alt F4 pretty much exclusively using Harbingers, where they're very effective on the ground in large numbers, but there's no AA, there's no additional shielding, there's no cannon fodder. It's literally just Harbingers, I think. 24 of them to be exact, but that's about it. We see pretty much one focus in land units and a variety of units here for SilentNoob. And then what that pretty much shows is Alt F4 is saying I'm going to build Harbingers. It's going to be in. I have this one idea, one goal in mind. I want to focus on my air facilities. I'm going to rebuild those, build my restores, and then crush my opponent. That doesn't always work when you only focus on one thing. You have to specialize. You have to diversify and build a lot of different units, not just one of the same. Because like I've said before, 1,000 of anything will kill anything, but if you can easily counter 1,000 of those things, it's not going to work. T1 bombers just kind of blanketing the ground around these harbingers. The shields were down. A couple of them are pretty low in hit points, but none of them are killed off. And that's, yeah, T1 bombers aren't really worth it. I think he's using them to goat his opponent, but a couple of strat bombers come in and just get annihilated. That was could have been timed a little bit better. I feel like there's an air fight going to happen at some point on this eastern side, though, between our players. A lot of the action has gone on pretty much in this inner ring. Some of it has been in the outer rings, but I guess there's a circle, and yeah, I guess an inner ring and outer ring. Spy plane over the top, getting a nice readout for his opponent. Does know where the land facility and air facilities are. Same thing with SilentNoob. They're not hidden. Neither player is going to build. I don't think they're going to build a game ender. They'll probably go for some experimental at some point. But again, 1v1s, 2v2s are a different animal. They're a lot more focused on using the T1 to T3 units as effective as they can be. And in this instance, we are seeing now some Redeemers pop up on the scene here for Alt F4, but it's a little too late. We even see some Serenities, the mobile artillery. But SilentNoob focusing, again, more on variety and less on, I'll build 1,000 of one thing, which has its advantages and disadvantages. SilentNoob is hanging out here. He's a 5-star comm due to that incoming Harbinger threat that happened about 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, whatever time it was. I think it was 15 minutes ago. And he controls the middle with only one intel installation and is building Ravagers in the middle. Wants to secure, of course, this is 8 mechs between, the 4 cardinal directions and then these 4 right here. So it's a lot of mass for players to go after. It's only T1, but that's 14 mass a second, and it's a chunk. It's not a huge chunk, but it's a chunk. We are seeing, of course, SilentNoob is still in the lead for mass generated per second at a little over 300 versus, let's say, 275 here for Alt F4. And Alt F4 still trailing, but again, the mass total is staying about the same, about between 12 and 15K. Not really far exceeding in one direction or the other in terms of our players, but a Redeemer gets close, gets shot at by a bunch of Ravager fire. One engineer is working on this. It will take a while to build up defenses here, but once they're built up, it will be a hard position to go after. Strat bombers go after the T3 mass extractor. They almost take out the land HQ as well. It's below 30% hit points, something like that. So a couple more strat bombers will deal with that, and what that will do is deny his opponent T3 land until that facility is rebuilt. But now we see the power of just a bunch of Harbingers versus a couple of Perseus. And yeah, the Perseus can essentially 2-shot, 3-shot. They can 3-shot, or even 4-shot, depending if there's we're not regen on these Harbingers. That one misses. Would have liked to grab that one. I think he will get it, though. Yep, does kill that one. Harbingers, I think, have the same amount of range as Perseus. It's the additional shielding on the Harbingers plus the sheer amount of them. We are having a distraction over here. We have a couple of units that went down this way, and a bulk of the force went on the other side of this plateau. These Harbingers will have to be called back, but more protection here. A couple of decent amount of shields. AA, not a lot of offense. And now we're seeing a Titan get in the mix. Titan against the Harbinger doesn't really go the Titan's way, unfortunately. Just doesn't have the hit points or the power to really do so. We are seeing the Redeemers fire a couple of shots. T1 bombers overhead once again. The T3 land HQ has not been taken out as of yet. It does look like maybe SilentNoob will go after it again, but I don't see any strat bombers here for now. But broadswords brought forth. There's no AA here, and I think he's trying to use the gunships as a not a distract. Oh, not a scapegoat. Shoot, what's it called? But the ASFs just straight ignore the gunships and go straight for the engage. It does look like Alt F4 has the numbers. We have 100 here for Alt F4 and 30, and that number is diminishing very quickly. Alt F4 will have air control. Is SilentNoob pushing on a different side of the map? No, he's not. And he will have to retreat. The gunships will have to retreat as well. This push still making a little bit of headway. Did take out a decent group of those Harbingers. But I don't... It might be enough. Is there any PD in the mix? I mean, there's another Harbinger, a couple of NGs. There isn't any PD on the ground. It does look like the Harbingers might be enough. It is 4 shots, though. Shield is down. Another Harbinger is brought forth. That Harbinger is killed. More and more are coming in all the time. There's 3 facilities here producing them all the time. And these Harbingers are going to be slow about it. They're not going to push excessively, but just enough. Is Alt F4 having another power issue? No, okay. Maybe he was, but he fixed it. They're going after the T3 Mass Extractor. You could... Okay, I was going to say you could kill off the Harbinger, but the Mass is just going to stay. They're reclaiming the Skyboxer. I mean, you could do that, but is it really worth it is the question. Yeah, reclaim the Percy's, the thing shooting at you. That's definitely worth more. The Percy's are being taken out by Oblivions, but the Percy's outrange the Oblivions. And now another push here to the west by a couple of Titans and then assisting Percy's on the way. They'll take out the AA. Those look like there's a large focus on denying enemy air on this northwestern side. Maybe Alt F4 doesn't want to worry about a strat snipe. But there's a Tsar, and it's already half completed. Alt F4 probably wants to end the game right now. It is 45 minutes. He should have been thinking about it like at least 10 minutes ago, minimum. But T2 gunships instead of restorers called for. They don't do as much damage. It will take a little bit to chew through those hit points. We'll take another T3 mechs out. So 2 of the 4 mechs are gone here. But that Percy will fall. A lot of reclaim here on this side of the map here for Alt F4 to grab. 23,000 just in view. Decent chunk of mass. We're even seeing these Spectres just kind of punishing all of the engineers and other units here. And the ASS will fly coverage for them. Wait, hold on. Is SilentNoob having issues? Yep, he's negative on power. But he's building a Fat Boy. ASF's engaged once again. These gunships would have a nice opportunity to take out some shield emitters here against SilentNoob. But this shield will come back online as this Fat Boy finishes. The first experimental of the game is SilentNoob at 46 minutes. Will it make or break the game? Well, the Tsar is in the green. It is the make it or break it here for Alt F4. He needs that ASF. He needs that Tsar to work. Of course, Tsar is a good counter to Fat Boys because Fat Boys are... All experimentals are essentially slow. But there's no really AA on that Fat Boy, and it's a Tsar, so it has a shield. And if you have air control, it really makes a difference. But of course, the Fat Boys can produce units on the move. We'll see if SilentNoob uses that tactic here in this game. There are this roaming band of Harbingers again on this eastern side. It does look like Alt F4 is kind of flip-flopping what side of the map he wants to go after in terms of aggression. But a couple of Percy's make it in. They're going after the T3 headquarters. It's not going to pierce the shields in time. They do take out another Mechs, though. Does drop the eco here for Alt F4 down to 250 versus 387 for SilentNoob. But the Tsar is completed, and it will probably go straight after the Fat Boy. It is inbound. You can see it on the map. Here it comes. Fat Boy's saying, run. This is not... The donut is there. Watch out for the donut. Donut is inbound. Shield, Rato. I think that's complete. Maybe that's what that means. But it's not going for the Fat Boy. It's going for this position. There's a couple of SAM sites and AA, but not enough. The shield is down, halfway, and that should be the main target is the SAM sites and, of course, the flak. That's not the main target here for this Tsar, though. Definitely a missed opportunity. A lot of shield strength that didn't really need to be taken out. Of course, there are missiles, and the ASFs will run right into that Tsar. Will he activate the laser? Yes, he will. It will deal a lot of hit point damage to those ASFs that run through that center of the beam. Team 1, Alt F4 will keep air control. I guess this means done in German. At least I think, not German, Russian. I think that is Russian. At least that's kind of what it looks like. But a lot of flak is being called for trying to take out the ASF and, of course, the Tsar. The Tsar is going to just hold position and take out enemy air units from a distance with those missiles. More Harbingers on this eastern side, constantly raiding, constantly going after SilentNoob's infrastructure. We have, again, this band of gunships to the west. There is a couple of SAM sites. Not a lot, though, on this western side. And then the ASF is going to fly coverage for them. Is there anything other things planned for Alt F4? He has the shield. He has the heavy shield to protect his comm. Would like to see at least T2 for some more hit points. Actually has no ranks of entrancy because I don't even think he's really left his main base at all. He hasn't left his main base at all this game. Just the advantage for SilentNoob. He has 22,000 hit points just on his comm alone, and that's from veterancy. Doesn't even have the shield yet. Now we're kind of quiet. The Fat Boy is still online with a lot of AA. It's flak, but it's a lot of AA with a bunch of shields as well. This is going to be a hard thing for Team Alt F4 to really puncture through. There's a Percy in there as well. Radar installation, but the Tsar is coming to the west. The shield is almost recharged, but it doesn't finish, which means it is vulnerable. The main hit points are being taken out. The Tsar will die to a bunch of AA. It charged the wrong position. Definitely a missed opportunity there. Does take out a huge section of those defenses. Now the gunships can come in and deal with the rest of it, but was it worth it? I mean, just the reclaim alone, 24,000 just for the Tsar. I don't think that was really worth it. They'll cut off a lot of mass extractors, though, but I just don't think it was worth it. Not for that. I mean, at least take out the Fat Boy or something. And now the Fat Boy is going to push forward, take out this forward position. A Colossus was under construction. I say was because it's soon to not be. Shields are going to start being built to protect the engineers, but it's not enough. PD and artillery going to be spammed up as well. It's not fast enough. They are miasma, so they are very effective against large units, slow-moving units like the Fat Boy. It's not enough. The gunships, again, still trying to raid. They're trying to take out any T3, T1, T2 unit they can. Anything that's not covered by AA, but pretty much most of the map is now being covered by mobile, either T3 Cougars or T2 Skyboxers here for Team, and I keep saying it, for Team 2 for SilentNoob. Man, this is not looking good here. We have the artillery starting to rain in. I think that was a missile, though. At least it looked like a missile. It could have been artillery. Oh, no, yeah, it's artillery from the Serenity. But again, assisting shields with all... Man, that's a lot of shields here for SilentNoob. How many of them are here? 8? That's a decent chunk. Each shield has 3,000. So we're talking about 24,000 shields plus an additional 20,000. So 44,000 with a bunch of Percys in tow and more Skyboxers, of course, inbound. Would like to see some Cougars, but, for dealing with the Tsar, the Skyboxers were definitely the choice. And Alt F4 misses. He misses just barely those gunships. Oh, no. It's going to be another gunship rush here. And there's no AA. Alt F4 did not learn his lesson. There's a couple, but not enough to secure that eastern wall of the map. The air factories is just going down. Another one takes out half of it. It's not fully centralized, so it's going to take a little bit longer for these gunships to chew through it. But that's another section of it gone. The comm is just sitting there. It has they have an SMD being built. It has been built. It's loading a missile now. SilentNoob has built another experimental, probably another Fat Boy or a Novax if he's so bold, but I would assume it's a Fat Boy. The ASFs are now called back. Man, this position will fall here for Alt F4, and now if SilentNoob really wanted to, he could just rush the main base here for Alt F4. His air grid is essentially up in smoke. He's even lost his T3 headquarters. Can't produce any more T3 units for now. And it's not really looking good here for Alt F4. He does have his T3 facility for land up here, but that's it. He's lost a lot of map control. He had the Tsar, and I think that's GG. Yep, that is GG. It was translated for me. I appreciate it. Hardcore games, says SilentNoob. GG, well played. It was a very good game. And 53 minutes is fairly long for a 1v1, so I figured it would be a nice starter 1v1 game for the channel here. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Please like and comment down below what your favorite moment of the video was. I do think the largest mistake, the most like obvious mistake I think in the game was this Czar over here. Had Alt F4 kept it and gone after the FAF board like we initially, took a nice little view at, it probably would have been a lot better. It would have taken a little bit longer for SilentNoob to punch through this eastern side, and of course, twice it happened twice that the gunships came in and took out the air grid. The first time, okay, not that it's fine, but Alt F4 lost its power, lost its air grid, had to rebuild. It took him a while to get back up and running. And you would think, oh, let me build some shields, and let me build some AA over here on the east just in case. But he didn't really have any radar either. Definitely a missed opportunity there. Needed at least T2, if not T3 Omni radar. I mean, we didn't even have T3 Omni radar. We had T2 here for SilentNoob, and that's all he needed. He could have gone T3, but he didn't really need to. Alt F4 could have gone T2 as well. He built an SMD. I mean, unless SilentNoob was building a nuke, which I don't think he really was. He didn't really need to, honestly. I don't see... He would have built it there or there, but it's not either place, and he wouldn't have built it far out. Yeah, so not really worth it at that point. But, it's, be prepared, that kind of thing. But again, I think obvious mistake throwing that Czar against that position. Did crack it, but didn't use it to his advantage, and so it was just wasted. Probably should have just gone after the comms straight up. And he did build some SAM sites in retaliation and in preparation, but you probably could have killed the comm off with that Czar, especially because you have air control. Bring in the gunships, bring in everything you have, just throw it at him like he did earlier. About like 27 minutes, I think is what it was. But it was a good game. A lot of back and forth. Not one side was winning the entire game, but it was a good game. So hopefully you thought the same thing. And so if you did, please like and comment down below what your favorite moment was. And of course, if you haven't hit that red button below the video, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you for helping me reach 500 for those who have subbed, and for those who haven't, I would just encourage you, if you enjoy my videos, if you enjoy my commentary, why not just subscribe, and then you can just go to your subscription feed, and then you can just see my video every day, and it's a lot easier to find. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see all of you wonderful, amazing people. And yes, I am talking to you in the next one.